the more broken it is, the more it gives you the freedom to get weird. I think it just pushes you to experiment. The more you experiment, I think the more interesting things you can make. Like it's as simple as that.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
One of the best things about starting this podcast for me has been the genuine connections that I've been able to make with the artists that soundtrack so much of my life. And a most recent example of this is my most recent trip to Chicago, where I had a blast and spent time with today's guest, Frankie Jax No Mad. The warm and thoughtful personality that I witnessed in my time with Frankie Jax No Mad can also be found directly through his music, because his extremely unorthodox production style and stream of consciousness rhymes are key markers of his style that really invite me in as a listener and really intrigue me, which I feel have come together in its most complete package yet on his latest album, Thanks for Understanding. In this episode, we discuss his journey from Kenya to the UK, then back to Kenya to finally LA, what inspires his distinct approach to rap, and the creation of this new record. If you're unfamiliar with this guy, make sure you listen to this episode. Stick around, you will not regret it. This is an artist you must check out. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Frankie Jax No Mad, how you doing
Sir,
today?
my guy, I'm chilling, bro. Yes, here, got my coffee. I already told you, man. I got 3 bevs. You know what I mean? I'm feeling good.
Like, as we get started, I want to give a shout out to a couple people that I think helped us kind of bring us together today. So, like, firstly, Big Flowers, who I just mentioned, who does the animation for this, who did the animation for this show. I think they were speaking really heavily about your music for like ever since I would imagine like 2020 when I really tapped in with them. But yeah, they were speaking really heavily of you a few times, and I know I would read the name Frankie Jax No Mad. Okay, cool, interesting name. Then I think I first heard what was the first album I heard? I think it was the one that you dropped in, was that 2021?
Was it Sex I
Was
Don't
this?
Have?
Yes, yeah, and that shit was like immediately pretty much blew me away. I was just so fucking enthralled with a lot of like what I was hearing. And then Rich Jones, who
Yes.
like
Yes.
out of nowhere, like I knew right, but so like for the listeners, I went to Chicago for I think like 5 nights this August, and I was gonna tap in with Rich. Anybody who visits Chicago who's like connected to the indie rap scene, like you'll meet him. It's like you always will see him. He's just always
Fucking
the
mayor,
best,
bro.
the Chicago official host and mayor. And yeah, so I was gonna meet up with him, and he's like, "Yeah, Baraka's gonna be with us." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like I didn't expect that, and we ended up like I thought we probably would meet up like a couple times, maybe like we spent 80% of the time pretty much us three doing shit, and that was like super fun. Those freaking I still remember those Lake Michigan beaches. That shit
Bro,
blew
come
me
on, man, bro.
away.
That shit was nice, man. I'll never forget, man. Like Chicago, bro, Rich, that wouldn't have been the same trip without Rich, man. And bro, that beach, come on, man. You have to tell people I took some fucking bad bitch pictures of you too, which I don't know if you
Oh yeah. Yeah,
send
yeah, you did. I
those
used
people
those.
about
I
you.
used those. I
Yeah,
said
come on, man.
you took some good photos. I still remember like cuz I was I think there was a few times during that day cuz we went to like I think that day we went to 2 beaches, which is fuck blew me away also just how many fucking beaches are in Chicago. That didn't even make sense. I think we went to like a couple beaches, and I know early on I was like, "Yo, like I want you to take some photos. Like I want some photos." And you're like, "Yeah, sure." And you're like, and I think I remember specifically, you're like, "Yeah." Yeah, definitely I'll do it. Do you want to get like a half chub going? So you can
Yeah, dude, you gotta come
and
on. You
like
gotta show them what you're working with, bro. Come on.
and I think that was the first day I met you, and like we had maybe even speaking for like 30 minutes at that point. I was just like, yo, whoa, okay. This guy's
Yeah, bro.
hilarious. I didn't expect that. Uh that was fun. Yeah, that was a good trip. We almost met up with like Hannibal Buress like a couple occasions. That
Mm,
was also very random.
That's the
Yeah,
man.
that was uh that was a really good time. Like, what impressed you the most about your time in Chicago? You were there for like a week or 10 days, something like
Yeah,
that.
I was there for a week, and first of all, it was just like a very like synchronous situation because it was like when I went to Rich's house and I met his partner and all this stuff. They had like, I'm originally from Kenya, so it's like they had all this Kenyan stuff in their guest room, which was insane. Because Rich's partner's uncle is from Kenya, so that was nuts.
Oh,
But
sick.
what really impressed me was just like the fact that everyone's talkative, like everyone wanted to like chat, you know what I mean? It just felt really social. The food was crazy, son. Lem's barbecue, bro, first
Oh
day.
God, that shit blew me
Fuck
away.
off, bro. That shit was fucking crazy. And just going to the bars and stuff, all the bars had like personality, there would be like, little like kitsch stuff, little trinkets around and stuff like that. It just felt like there was a lot of life, which I think anyone who is even from Chicago would say in the summer it's just fucking alive. Like people are really outside. That was probably it, man. And the I feel like people really connected with music. There was a lot of music all the time. And even at the show that I did, it felt like people were really paying attention, you know. And yeah, wanted to talk afterwards and connect and shit like that on a genuine level. So
That's good. And that show was you, Rich, and did Slime perform too?
no, Slime, I don't know. Slime didn't actually end up coming to the show. But it was
Who
first of
was the
all
third
hosted
person?
by Rich Jones and Show You Suck. The Dream Blunt Rotation show. It was me, Sunite. I can't believe I've forgotten his name, man. But he was known around Chicago a lot. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names. But funnily enough, fucking Eshu, fucking Hannibal pulled up to the show and he did a set as well, which was
Oh,
very,
really?
yeah, it's very random. Yeah, they were all really dope, man.
Yeah, so like, when we were in Chicago, I also got to learn a bit more about like your journey, but honestly not that much from like going from Kenya to LA where you
Mm.
where you're at right now and I like to expand on this. So like firstly, what is the hip hop scene back in your hometown and like how did you connect with hip hop as a kid or as a teen?
Okay, so I was born in Kenya, right? And then when I was around 11, I moved to London in the UK during the we had like post-election violence in around 2007. That's why I moved to London. And probably my first connection to hip hop was in the UK, living with my brothers. I lived with my brothers out there. And it was the times of like fucking Dat Piff, like hot new hip hop, like the mixtape time, you know what I mean? A lot of what, people with the likes of, Mac Miller,
Yeah.
Currency, fucking, Danny Brown, like that type of shit. That was when I was getting into like making rap music myself. But I listened to the scene in London, like that was just a world of me and my brothers. You know what I mean? Like when I was in London at that time, no one was listening to that shit like at all. So I didn't know what the scene was. It was mostly just like us, you know, me and my peoples who like that shit. But when I was younger, I played piano and fucking violin and shit. I tried playing drums. Like I always loved music, but I would say for rap music, it was that time. And obviously I'd listen to the classic like the Wu-Tangs and the Redmans and the Big
Mhm.
L's and shit before that. But I would say definitely where it came from, like where I started to really love rap was that mixtape era, you know.
And
I don't know what year that was.
yeah, and what inspired the move specifically to LA?
So moving to LA, I came to LA for college, you know. Um and so this is like kind of a jumping back and forth, but I moved to London when I was around 11, but I moved back to Kenya
Mm,
when I was 16. Maybe I was just about to turn 16. And when I went back to Kenya to do my last few years in high school, um I had no intention of moving to America. Everyone, like back in Kenya, especially, we do British curriculum. So usually people go back to the UK or go to the UK to do their college or
mm.
university, whatever. And my auntie Tata Njeri, may she rest in peace, man. Um, when I was supposed to go to college, she was the one who was like, why the fuck do you want to go back to like the UK? Like that makes no sense. She used to work for BT back in the day at MGM out
Oh,
here in Los Angeles.
say word.
And so she was like big, like one night, like, you know, she like sipping her like Pinot Grigio and shit, I'm sipping on whatever I'm sipping on and we're chilling and, having a good night. And she was just really just like, that's stupid. Don't go to the UK. You need to, if you want to like really like be free with your expression, because I was already not a black sheep, I would say, but like, you know, what I liked musically and stuff like that, it seemed that no one else liked it.
And so
So
this was a drive, like when you're talking about even what she's referring to, like her perspective, that's from the perspective of you trying to like pursue the arts, like that, the for your
yes,
career and things like that. Okay, okay,
yes, exactly. Like to go to college, but also be free in what I wanted to like express myself freely.
yeah,
She was, you need to go to LA. And I
right.
just kind of like was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. And either way, I fucking applied to colleges and shit in the UK, and my grades was so shit that like no one fucking wanted to take me. But with the American school system, as soon as they changed my grades to the American shit, I was fine. So I fucking hopped on a plane, bro.
Nice, nice. And like how, like in your terms of your experience there so far, like what's been the biggest kind of like, has there been any moments of like culture shock or just like surprising things that you found challenging?
Uh, Not really, bro. Because the thing is with me, man, nomad's in the name, bro. Like I never experienced culture shock. I embraced it. Hella, nothing really surprised me. I would say maybe at that time, one of the things that I thought was strange was Black Americans thinking that like I hated them because I was African. Like there's this whole thing, like I don't
Yeah.
know, this whole thing of like, oh, Africans don't really like or respect like Black Americans. So I was kind of met with a little bit of that. And that surprised me because I had never heard of this. But not really, man.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's crazy. That's like definitely I cause even I'm not black, but I can see I know exactly what you mean just by surfing fucking online. And that's what it sucks like with a lot of these things, these diaspora wars that occur. A lot of times it's just online, but that shapes people's actual view to where they're like, "Oh, this is an actual thing." Like African black people have this negative connotation because I've heard that.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
just it's wild that that becomes reality even though like you're like living there and you're like, I don't know what I've never heard about this in my life, like that's really unfortunate. But like so as you've gained a bit of traction now as an artist, like who are I know you've made some like interesting connections in your times over the past few years, especially like who are some key artists or like label folk that you feel have had a really positive impact on kind of guiding you where you're at now?
So I will get to a main point because there was a main point in terms of being guided, but I've always been someone who seeks mentors and guidance from just regular folk that I meet, that I befriend. Probably the first person that guided me in terms of like and shaped me is my friend Kaiser Ali. That's one of the first people I met that was an artist in out here in LA. Just like at a house party type shit.
Mm.
We ended up met him on the couch, and uh, in the house, we just started making music. Like the party was cool, but we weren't really feeling vibes, so we started making music. And that's the first time I heard like sample beats like that, like this kind of uh alternative LA world. You know what I mean? Like wonky beats, like just like broken shit. Like, and he was just making that shit and freestyling for minutes at a time, bro. So I'd say that would be the first person that shaped it. But if I'm gonna jump to the real person that kind of like mentored me a little bit, was surprising, is AC Alone of Freestyle Fellowship.
Say
Uh,
word.
yeah, I don't even really, I think maybe just being in like Leimert Park and stuff like that. I don't really remember how we properly met. But he was very like, yo, like, yeah, give me your number, man. You should come to our show. He would throw these shows called Beat Battery. And he was very, very like welcoming and encouraging to just be like, yo, no, like you got some dope shit. Come to the show. We'll give you a few fucking minutes to play some beats. And that was huge. You know what I mean? That was huge for me. And I just kind of like just was around being weird, you know, and saw how they do it.
Damn,
So I
that's
would
he's
say
a
that,
legend. Wow.
yeah, man, dude, good fellow, man. Shout out to AC for real, for real, for real, for real, for real. And also the likes of like another person who's given me, on a more like chill level is Lena Fornia, man. You know what I mean? She's encouraged me a lot, you know what I mean? And she's just a very sweet person, and has made me feel very welcome, because out here, especially being from somewhere else and stuff like that, there's a whole thing like that whole like LA transplant thing, like people are like, oh, you're not really from here, stuff like that. But I would say in terms of people of influence, those are two people who made me feel in the beginning very welcome and
Yeah.
had me encouraged me.
Yeah, I mean like when I'm thinking about like the LA scene, it feels like a really natural fit for you to be in LA, given that like yeah, that wonky style, that very kind of broken beat type way of constructing beats that's become so common. That's like a real marker of your music now, and it feels like it fits right into that ecosystem. And I think even when also with your raps, like I find them to be very unique, and like it's hard for me to really describe because it's not always the same. Like sometimes your voice and your delivery is pretty steady, but
Mm.
then other times it like contorts and the inflection changes, like particularly like at the end of a bar. Like I've noticed that on a lot of songs, and I
Yeah.
just find it really cool, and it just makes you kind of stay on your toes as a listener. So like, how do you approach writing and constructing these flows typically in your process?
Um, Dog, I would say I don't really have I write in a very flow state way, you know what I mean? Um, the voice thing particularly is honestly just me doing my best Busta Rhymes Danny Brown impression. You know what I mean? But in terms of like the writing process, I like to write when what I would say the only way to explain it is the threshold of reality is broken, where I'm kind of like just letting me you get that little whoo, you get that little like fucking like weird focus, and I just let it go, man. Like but I in terms of like I'm not trying to write my rhyme in a certain way or trying to do whatever. And I feel like a lot of artists can know what I'm talking about.
The more I talk to artists, the more that becomes like kind of a common theme where it's like I always just feel like my brain is very mathematical, logical. And obviously I'm not an artist like you are, and I can tell that I always assume as a listener there's something more deliberate and like formulaic almost. But
Mm,
oftentimes I keep hearing the same thing. It's like, no, I'm not really trying. I'm not really intentionally doing something. I'm just kind of just trying to capture an inspiration and just take it and just get into
yeah,
that flow state, get into that feeling where you're not thinking as much, which
yeah.
is
Stream of consciousness, bro.
yeah, and I mean that's what I like in your raps. Like the lyrics are very stream and consciousness. You do get into these like interesting tangents that are quite unique. How do you usually, I guess, like get inspiration? Like, what do you have like even like a type of like not routine, but just like things you like to do? Maybe it's like going for walks, like or does that kind of again just be very random and kind of sporadic?
Bro, yeah, I leave the house. I leave the house, bro. Inspiration, I feel like for a lot of artists, it's like this. I just like pull from what's going on in my life. Um, I find like the more I stay inside and stuff like that, I can't really find things to like pull from. You know what I mean? That much. And dude, yeah, I just go outside and I talk to people. Talking to people is a thing. Like, especially talking to strangers, bro. A lot of the things that I get inspiration from is like, I feel like I have a friendly face. You know what I mean? So when I go outside, like, dude, strangers talk to me like fucking, and by strangers I mean strange folk, like just like, and maybe they'll say something really interesting or tell me something about their life that I feel like kind of applies to mine, and I think about it, and it might come out in a rap 3 days later or something like that. You know what I mean? Um, Also conversations with friends. So I'd say the main thing is just going outside and talking to people, and just having experiences, man, doing different shit. Um, I definitely am not a routine person. I have habits, but I don't have like a routine, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like even interacting with you in Chicago, it's very clear like you're good at talking to strangers and good at like feeling at home. Like you said, you're a nomad. Like that's the vibe I get. You feel very at ease and
mm,
like just like yeah, like very calm in a lot of ways. And I'm
mm.
sure that lends itself well to having these kinds of interactions with others.
And I would say I want to add it's funny you say calm, but it's like I'm actually uncomfortable a lot. You know what I mean? Like I'm uncomfortable a lot, but I like being uncomfortable until I'm not anymore. And I feel like that definitely puts me in situations where I can pull inspiration from and stuff like that, even if it's negative. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
It's a good muscle to have to
Yeah.
just constantly be pushing yourself to be uncomfortable because that's usually where the coolest things in life happen. Like it could be anything. But yeah, it applies pretty across the board. And like, when I think of your rap style, I think what the thing that's also really great about it is that it just feels really at home on your style of production. Like it feels really neatly burrowed into these really unorthodox rhythms. You like ride it like a wave and man, I just like I think like I was saying when I listened to that Sex I Don't Have record, the I was really immediately captivated by the way it was glitchy and off kilter because like I don't know, it just was like the drums were so raw, the rhythms were so dense and interesting. It was very like a really warm mix. It's just something that's a really consistent feature of your music is that feeling of like yeah, of just something that's very disorienting and glitchy. So like what draws you to that particular style of production?
Dude, it goes back to fucking Kaiser, bro. Kaiser Ali, man. I remember one of the first things, and it's so simple. One of the fucking first things that blew my mind was when I was sitting with Kaiser. And again, I came to LA for school. I went to a music production school, you know what I mean? And I had a few classes or whatever. And Kaiser was making a beat, and I was like, yo, like, you gotta like land on the fucking one or whatever like that. You're gonna have to like quantize that shit. Like, you're like, uh, that's the way I just learned it. That's the way you do it. And he was like, no, like he was just like, nah, like, no, 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 that's not like why? Like he was making the beat without the measures. Like he was just like going. and he just kept doing it. And even though like it fell off, there was some points where, again, like my brain was like, "Ah, nah, bro, you gotta like get that shit on the one." Again, living in uncomfortability. After a while, I got it. I got what he was trying to do. So it really just goes back to Kaiser, man, and like showing me that you know, you don't always have to like follow rules and stuff like that. I just ended up liking it. And he was, bro, I didn't listen to like the likes of like I listened like Madlib really late. I got into like
Mm.
Madlib very, very late. And as we all know, like even fucking like Dilla and shit, like that shit was late for me. I was in America when I like listened to that shit. Like I'm
That's
not gonna
interesting because Dilla is the one of the prime examples of like someone who didn't quantize beats. Yeah, I think always reminds me of that idea of like pattern breaking. I've heard that many times now, and like in when it comes to like songwriting, that's typically the thing that people actually gravitate to when they listen to music. Like even a good chorus, it's often like that's why a chorus even exists. It's like it's breaking the pattern of like the da 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 verse structure. That's what your brain remembers, and like I think that applies to the beats too. Because like another producer that I really love that like I talked about a lot in my last interview with Feek and Lungs is Ola Segun. He
Oh yeah,
also like I was just blown away by there's like literally the 80% of the beat 80% of the song, sorry, is just like the same loop that he obviously created with several samples. But then there's just like one moment where he, because Lungs was rapping like a really like run on sentence, he just kind of kept it going randomly, like it broke the cycle. And I'm like, that's allowed. You just have like a typical loop, but then you just have this off. And then obviously, like his drums, I can tell it's all live. Like it's very tactile. And it, as a listener, I just really gravitate towards that kind of thing. It makes you, I almost feel like it adds like a level of connection because I feel like I'm like, this is just really not robotic, I guess. It's like the opposite of it, you know?
tap
It's
in,
human.
man. Again, that goes back to that stream of consciousness shit. Like you're feeling, you gotta feel that shit.
Yeah, and on the MCing side of things, like how does rapping over these kinds of unorthodox styles of beats like influence your progression as a rapper and like push you?
Hmm. That's a very interesting one because it goes hand in hand in the sense of like it pushes you to write differently because the beat is different. Like we could all, if it's that fucking 4/4 shit, like just going back and forth, you know what I mean? Like the more broken it is, the more it gives you the freedom to get weird. Like the only way I say get weird a lot, you know what I mean? I think it just pushes you to experiment. The more you experiment, I think the more interesting things you can make. Like it's as simple as that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I completely agree. And I think your music really shows that off. And like, I've been a big fan of your work for a few years now, and in comparison with past projects, I really feel like this latest work, Thanks for Understanding, is the most like complete, the most refined yet. So like how do you feel Thanks for Understanding stands out amongst your catalog?
Um, I think it's this this album was written during a time of like real pain, bro. You know what I mean? So I think it stands out just because it's the most honest I've ever been, like most vulnerable I've ever been. Like people that are close to me, you know what I mean, will listen to this album and they'll like hear shit that it's like, oh, like this is about this, or like this is about this. Like there's no fucking bullshit. Like and I think when it comes to writing, what's pushed me a lot, like when I was younger, I would write a lot of bars that I would write them and I would have that feeling of like, "Ah, I shouldn't write that shit because X, Y, and Z is gonna like hear this. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And once I started being like, oh, but I'm writing this because I want them to, dude. You know what I mean? I want them to. And with this album, like every song is completely just like, here it is. This is how I really, really feel. And I want everyone to know where I'm at for real. You know what I mean? Instead of like hiding shit or like I'm very good at like bottling a lot of things up and not talking about things to people because I feel like amongst my friends I'm like to my really close friends I talk about shit, but like amongst my friends I'm you know what I mean? I'm a smiley guy. I'm the guy that everything's gonna be cool, like da 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 da. But I think it just stands out because of that reason. It's honest and it's just bare, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think it's really freeing when you can break that barrier of that knee-jerk response of like I know exactly that feeling of like, yeah, that
Yeah.
even it's not even about you think they'll listen to it, but it's like if they do, that's gonna be awkward. That's gonna be
Yeah, it's
weird.
gonna be
But then you're like, this is exactly what I want to say though. This is what I want to say. Like this is how I feel, and once you kind of just like get past that, it can be pretty cathartic, it can be pretty healing, or it can just be like I feel like often like a weight. It's like giving. It's like almost like telling a secret, like getting a secret off your
yeah,
chest. Like
dude.
instead of
Yeah.
holding a secret in, it's not like you're directly telling this person like, oh, when you did this, this hurt me. But you're kind of telling, you're letting it go, I guess, because it's in the ether, and now it's like out of your control. Whereas obviously keeping the secret is like by definition trying to control it and trying to like make sure no one hears this or knows this about you.
Mm.
So I definitely hear that in this album, and on a musical level too, like songs like Clay Heart, especially. I feel like there's a new flavor to this kind of record. Like those deep sub bass hits are like super cool. That's not something I feel I've typically heard in your music,
Mm.
and I really like the calm generally that this album gives me, because there's moments that are that like really hit me with the soul and the lush instrumentation like flowers, and
Mm.
then there's also just like these like really fun addictive grooves like yucky.
Mm.
I love the whole tempo of the song. I like you're like the hook, I guess. It's just like it's so damn catchy. And yeah, like but again, like I just feel like with a lot of your records there's like these consistent fundamentals, but there's a always a distinct flavor that differentiates them. And so with Thanks for Understanding, what was that flavor you hope to give listeners? What were you hoping people took away or kind of felt the most after hearing this?
So this is the thing is that this this album was not created at first as like I know what this album's gonna do. Like things like I Love You All, that was very it's interesting you say this one sounds more like put together and stuff like that because I Love You All was probably the one that I was like, I am making an album. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Thanks for understanding. I don't really know what I wanted people to I think just when it was together and I saw like, oh, this is an album. I just wanted everyone to like see me for see where I'm at, like for real, like take away like, oh, this is like where Frankie's at for real. But I made this album like in this shed, like in the art, this little like shed in this that's the place that I actually stayed when I was like homeless as shit. You know what I mean? I don't know what the takeaway was, man. I was just like, look, man, look, here I am, motherfuckers. Yeah, I don't really have an answer to that, man, now that I think about
well, that's
it.
fascinating because yeah, I Love You All. Probably I would say like musically that one, because even when I think about I Love You All, I think that the main thing I like took from a musical perspective is that one probably had like when we're talking about like the way your drums and the rhythms are often like really like off kilter and unorthodox, that one actually had like for by your standards pretty traditional
Mhm.
drum patterns, I feel, and they felt like a it was like a more skeletal or like gritty kind of like I don't know, maybe like a more skeletal minimal sound versus this one. I feel like this one's more lush is where basically where I'm getting at, and a little more varied, whereas that one I think was like I can understand what you mean where you're like it was really very cohesive, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one was for sure. Like I was trying to uh make something that I think specifically also like like I'm on Alpha Pup and shit. Like I've been releasing things through Alpha Pup for the past maybe 3 years or something like that. I felt like the traditional drums and shit like that. I wanted to appeal to the greater audience, like to kind of like make a more digestible album. I got the skits in there. I got like, all that stuff. And even like I would say like the songs like Shiv on there and stuff like that. Like I was trying to just like make something like, oh, this is gonna be my big break, man. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, no, I feel you. And like when it comes to future work, I wonder like cuz I think pretty much every single self-produced album, right, is I mean every album of yours is self-produced. Like I don't think I've seen one that isn't, right?
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I have I've always kind of I have trouble um I'm not gonna say I have trouble working with people, but like I think I'm like so much into like my own style that like
Right.
and don't get me wrong, I've released shit with like other producers and stuff like that, like especially like my man Joe Nora. I've got a couple of things for the future with my man Nafet and stuff like that. And now I'm getting into like the next for the future is going to be way more things that are produced by other people.
Okay, interesting. That's where I was going with that. I'm curious.
Yeah, and I feel like one album I feel like was slept on, but it's out there, was made by Stevie. This man Stevie. I was on that album, and it's not my album, but that was all produced by Stevie, and also with the other man rapping on it, uh, Cisco Moon. So I'm working towards it, man. I'm working towards it, but that'll be definitely in the future, you know. I just got a pack from fucking Sleep Sinatra, fucking Sinai. That shit's fucking crazy. Um, so it's happening slowly, you know.
Yeah, Sleep would be a good Sinai would be a good sound for you. Like, because even I'm thinking just what he did with Sour Dub and his past records. Like he definitely has that
Yeah.
similar foundation from like he definitely dabbles with some like pretty off-kilter drums and uh glitchiness and unorthodox rhythms. Like that's definitely his style too. But he definitely has his own sound. That's pretty fucking cool.
Mm.
Yeah, and I would love to see how that works because like I find I find sometimes when rappers who also produce, there can be like some pretty interesting results where that pattern gets broken and they work with someone different. Sometimes it's like not as good for sure, but most of the time I find there's something can be interesting. Like this is kind of a weird example, but like because I honestly like I like him, but I've never been like a massive fan other than when I was like young and
Mm.
dumb, but like J. Cole, like obviously he produced like he
Yeah, man.
self-produces all of
Bro.
his shit. I
Yeah.
really liked him because like we're like very similar age, if not the exact same age. So like he also was one of those main artists I started to really love, like right around the time I started to become like a really big head and not just
Mm.
like a like a big music fan, but like a head. And like Friday Night Lights, I love. I still really think that that project's really good. Um, and yeah, like he self-produced every single project of his up until his last one, the most recent off season, where there's like I think half of it's I think produced by other people.
Mm.
And as I've grown to like listen to Cole, expand my horizons a bit, I've always felt like okay, he makes beats that are mostly pretty good, but I really don't. I really like I felt this for like half a decade that he needs to stop producing his own projects because
Yeah.
he's not like and obviously maybe it's a symptom of what he produces, but like I don't feel at all the same with you to be clear, because it's like you feel like this is it's helping your pen, it's pushing you and it's like making you do creative things as a producer and rapper. With him, it's like, man, it's like too sleepy, it's too like formulaic and obvious, and it's just like boring. Like it's just really boring. And it's not like the beats themselves are bad. A lot of
Good.
times they're quite good and yeah, I just always have felt like, man, you gotta venture the fuck out because it's like, and we see it because when J. Cole does these features, a lot of times over the past like 5 years, his features have been like the best shit he's done, like rapping wise. Like on Tana Talk 4, He's on, I think, the intro. He's a fucking sick ass feature on an Alchemist beat. And I'm like, hey, this is awesome. And then when he produces but doesn't rap, like he has songs like High Power with Kendrick. That's
Yeah,
like
I
one of
was about
the
to go
that's
there.
like
Yeah,
one of the best beats Kendrick's
yeah,
ever rapped over.
yeah.
And I'm just like, you need
Mm,
to decouple these things. And I
mm,
feel like that can be said about a few other artists I can think of where it's like sometimes that's a crutch.
mm,
And but more with you, it's more like that's just like a interesting thing I'd like to see because sometimes it
mm.
has really cool results.
No, I definitely, just in terms of collaboration in general, I definitely do want to venture out, because I will say for sure, like it's something that I thought about, especially in the past 2 years, that like, bro, I need to like work with people, because the last time I fully worked with people consistently was when I was in a rap group called Pharaohs, like when I first got out here for a while, and constantly collaborating with my homies. But I do plan on, I have been in, you know, in the fucking in the darkness, been collaborating with folks and stuff like that. And you're gonna see in the future, man. I got something coming out. Like I'm gonna be on the Rap Ferrara album,
So
um,
sick.
beats and shit like that. And there's a couple of other people like that I'm gonna be collaborating with, bro.
I,
Because
I
I am getting tired of my own beats for real.
I mean, it's
Like
always good to get a change. I mean, like I could see you like have you met Fatboy Sharif?
I have met him. I've met him before, but we didn't really connect like that. I met him while he was on, I think he was on tour. He was just doing his thing, man. Like he was there with, I think he did a show with Reese
Mm.
Langston and shit like that. So they're, I think they're on the same label and shit. And again, I'm a talkative chap, but a lot of the time when it comes to artists, like I like to observe and just let people like be.
Hmm.
But what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, like, I think he's the type. I mean, I could see you guys actually making good music together, but like when I think of some of the people he's produced, like not produced with, collaborated with, like other producers, I see some things that could work, like No Face. No
Mm,
Face is like a really interesting producer that makes some really weird shit. And like I was just thinking of like the type of rappers that I mean type of producer Sharif works with is quite eclectic and some of them could be a nice fit. Like No Face's the project they have Preaching in Havana. That's just dark as fuck. Like I don't know necessarily that would be the vibe you're going for, but like
I'm not hip to this artist. I don't know. I would need
oh
to
yeah,
hear.
he's great. He's produced for a lot of like kind of East Coast, New York kind of Jersey indie rap folks. Feek and Lungs, he's produced for them as well. But yeah, like I think there'd be some cool people. I just think right now in the landscape, there's so many dope producers that are
Oh,
like run the
definitely.
gamut of like very traditional to like fucking whacked out.
Hmm. Yeah, man, I'm definitely like venturing out. I got some beats from even like previously mentioned Big Flowers and shit. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
have,
Flower's a perfect example of someone.
yeah,
Perfect
I
example.
just need to like do it. Like I just need to do it. But they're in my email, man. I got some shit coming, man, for
Hmm.
sure. You know,
Yeah, I could hear you sounding really at home on like the last Flowers project you did with Messiah Music.
that shit was fucking crazy,
Like
bro.
Messiah Music, man. If you're listening, then Frankie some shit.
Bro.
Because like that would be like yeah, I feel like this album, this last album of yours really like showed me like I really think this I don't really know it. I just think that general feeling of like really lush and like pretty shit. It was like a lot of what I got really soulful. Like that sounded really good with the kind
Mm.
of way and the stuff you talk about too. Like that could be really cool. Fanon, August Fanon too. Like that would be nice.
August Fanon,
Yeah, you're not familiar with August Fanon?
you gotta put me on, bro. I
Oh my
don't.
God. I remember we talked about this. You're actually like you're very like you have your artist, but yeah, you haven't ventured out as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. This is something that that's when this is connected to collaboration. Like I don't. I think I told you the first day, like the first day we hung out, you were like, putting out these names, you're obviously very knowledgeable of music, and I was told you, bro, I don't know anything. Like I actually don't for real, and it's not because I wouldn't fuck with it or I don't, like whatever. I just like I go outside, I hang out, and I do all this stuff, and then I fucking go the fuck back home. You know what I mean? And I don't really. I also when I'm looking for music, like I don't these days I don't listen to a lot of rap, dude. So I need to be put on, bro. Like you don't know, bro. I didn't listen to Billy Woods until this year, bro.
Wow.
Like type shit. Like, I don't know anything, bro. Just put me on, put me on.
Yeah, I'll send you a bunch of shit after this for sure. And in terms of like so this record just dropped, anything imminent that people should be looking out for, or is it more just like you're working on some new things that you already mentioned? Or tour dates or merch or anything else you want to call out?
Well, definitely, bro, buy my CDs and my vinyl for Thanks for Understanding and the Oman shit. In terms of like things coming out in the future, I don't really have anything like people should like look out for. It'll just come when it comes, you know. But I'm not planning anything, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I'm working on stuff, but again, I don't really have like right now, I don't even have like a studio to go to. I don't have a home studio like as I'm still like looking for a place and shit like that. So it'll come when it comes. It's all good, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of art, a lot of music that you have your back catalog that people listening can definitely check out in your Bandcamp. Lots of
Mm.
good records. But yeah, I'm really glad you could come on, man. You're a really
Oh,
good dude, mad talented, and I'm just happy to see you continue to kind of make an impact, get some more listeners, and make connections with folks. Like, I just hope it keeps going up for you, and I definitely hope we'll meet again sometime in the
oh no, for
future.
sure. You know what I do want to say for all the people listening? Yo, check out. I'm gonna drop some names, bro. Listen to Reese Langston. Listen to fucking Nafet. Listen to a Dua, bro. Listen to Cuddy Mitsu. Listen, I'm about to go do a release show for Nafet and Sinbad. They just released a new record, More Than a Village. Go peep that. Go peep Doberman by a Dua, man. Shout out to Ice Nine. Listen to that shit. There's a bunch of crazy shit. I know I say I don't look for a lot of music and shit, but open your eyes. There's motherfuckers out here that are really dope and working really, really hard. Um,
100%.
that's what I would say. Listen to the homies, man.
Will do, will do. All right, man. Hope you have
Thank
a
you.
good rest of the day, man. Peace.
You too, man. Peace, peace, peace.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to not only support the show, but join the fastest growing community of like-minded indie rap fans, go to patreon.com, search for the Rap Music Plug podcast, and become a patron. You will gain access to an exclusive patron-only Discord that me and 70 plus people engage with on the regular, as well as other patron-only benefits such as bonus episodes, album recommendation reviews, early access to regular episodes, and much more. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.